Test, test. That's good. Thank you. Good evening. It being 5:30, I will call this special meeting of the Council of the Town of Fort Frances, this regular meeting of the Council of the Town of Fort Frances, to order. It being session number 82. And we will begin, as we always do, with a territorial acknowledgement. We respect and truly acknowledge that we are on Treaty 3 territory, the traditional land of the Anishinaabe and the Métis Nation. We give gratitude and honor to the ancestors, elders, and all Anishinaabe and Métis people for sharing their resources and knowledge. Councilors, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? And if so, state the general nature. Councilor Morrison.
Some pecuniary interest with the closed session dealing with litigation.
Thank you. That's noted. Anyone else? Okay, item 4, delegations, there are none. Item 5, presentations, there are none. Correspondence, yes, there is some. Item 6.1, there is some correspondence from the last Rainy River District Services Board meeting. I'll just ask councilors before I comment if there's anything in there that you wanted to comment on. I'll comment on a couple of things. One, I know that council has some interest in reviewing the community safety well-being plan. And the DSAB has agreed that that's important and has agreed to help out in any way they can. And to that end, they have been in contact with the clerks. And in fact, I believe it's our former CAO, Fassel, who will be assigned to helping the clerks out with this. And then another item that's of interest in there to the community is that the DSAB has put out a request for organizations or businesses or companies to develop housing at the St. Michael's School lot. So that's in the works as well. 2 6.1s. The second 6.1 is some correspondence involving improving safety and connectivity. And that's put on there by Councilor Bernetta, and I believe Councilor Bernetta would like to make an oral motion.
Yes, just a prelude. I wanted to just remind you that this is very high on the priority list for the NOMA board. It is something that we've been talking about with the province for some time, and they would like all of the municipalities in the area of highways 11 and 17 to produce a similar motion that is presented here today. And I just wanted to read a comment from Rick Dumas, who is the chair of the NOMA board. He says, if Canada is serious about long-term economic resilience and national prosperity, modernizing and securing the Trans-Canada Highway system through Northern Ontario, particularly Highways 11 and 17, must be treated as a national priority. Frequent road closures, extreme weather events, and limited redundancy on these vital corridors cost the economy millions of dollars each year by disrupting the movements of goods, people, and essential services. So this ties in also with the safety and security issue they've been working on. So I would ask that this council support the resolution as provided by the NOMA board. And I will also ensure that this is sent to the RRDMA for their input as well.
Thanks for that, Councilor Bernetta, and through you, thanks to NOMA as well for taking the lead on this. So I will put an oral motion on the floor that council support the improving safety and connectivity through 2+1 highway development in Northern Ontario resolution. Will you be moving that, Councilor Bernetta? Can I get a seconder on that, please, Councilor first Morrison? Any further discussion? Calling the question, all in favor? It's carried and no one was opposed. Moving on to 6.2. This is a series of publications by the Northwestern Health Unit, which I found to be very fascinating reading. Any comments, councillors? I'll just make a couple of comments because I think it's worth pointing out. The Northwestern Health Unit pointed out that in the Northwestern Health Unit catchment area, that emergency visits due to alcohol are 14 times the provincial average. And that hospitalizations resulting from alcohol abuse in the Northwest Ontario catchment area are 6 times the provincial average. And of course, they pointed out that this puts on an extreme strain on emergency response personnel, such as our paramedics and our police services. And they included some interesting research which showed what happens when LCBOs are not open as long. They use the example of COVID, and they use a case in Sioux Lookout where the LCBO was closed on Sunday or Monday. And they noticed that when the LCBO was closed on Sunday or Monday, there was a 65% decrease in alcohol-related police calls. And there was a number of other stats. So it's really interesting reading. I encourage councillors, if you haven't, to have a look at it. And for anyone at home, this is public information. It's well worth reading. Anything else on that? Okay. Moving on to reports. My report is, as always, written, so I'm just going to touch briefly on a few things. One thing I'll touch on that's not in there is I'd like to wish our treasurer, Don Galusha, a happy birthday today. And we noticed October 24th, another staff member present here tonight had a very special birthday as well. I did 3 media interviews, 2 with the Fort Francis Times. One, they wanted a retrospective on Remembrance Day, and the other, they wanted some comments on the Intervistas workshop here on our airport. And then the third one was Thunder Bay News wanting comments on the relationship between Fort Francis and International Falls. I'm always positive about that because we have a great relationship with them. And once this silliness with President Trump is done, we're still going to be friends with those good folks. Spent a full day with the DSAB bargaining team. We were in mediation with the paramedics. It went very, very well, and it looks like we have a tentative agreement, but of course that has to be ratified by both sides. Did a couple of flag raisings, both very important, very poignant ones. One, we did the Legion Poppy flag raising, very good turnout there. Shout out to Treaty 3 Police for coming. They come out to almost all of our events, and they brought along one of their crisis response workers. We had some of our councillors there, Councillor McTaggart, Councillor Behan, and of course, a great turnout by staff. That's always a very poignant one for me, raising the poppy flag, and Legion pinned a poppy on me. It's a very important time of year, I think, for all of us. I'm pleased to see that everyone's wearing poppies this evening. A really terrific event that occurs every year is the library trunk or treat. And if you haven't been to one of those, I really encourage you to go. It's like a kind of a county fair atmosphere. We have so many volunteers who had their trunks set up, and lots of people donated candy. The costumes are always phenomenal, and the library staff is absolutely amazing. I was one of a panel of 3 asked to judge the various trunks. There were 6 categories. I won't go through all of them, but the prize for the best in the show went to Judson Howie. They had a really entertaining display set up. I want to give a special shout out to our clerks. They're continuing with their elopement weddings. They offered a series of elopement weddings over Halloween, and they're offering some more in Rainy Lake Square coming out. This is really catching on with our community. and it provides a one-stop, very economical way for people in our community to get hitched without a lot of red tape. So way to go, clerks. I've been meeting on and off with our Member of Parliament, Marcus Pulowski, and his Chief of Staff. We've been putting a lot of work in on the immigrant workers file, and we seem to be getting some traction with the federal government, and that, of course, is where the traction has to come from. We had a request from the Prime Minister wanting stories of local immigrant workers here in Fort Frances. So I contacted a number of employers, and they were all very, very cooperative, and as were the immigrant workers. And we got a number of very heartwarming and heartbreaking stories. Almost all of these immigrant workers want to stay here. They love it here. I had 3 of them in my office last week, and when they talk about Fort Frances, they say, our town. I found that very, very touching. At any rate, I collected the stories, sent them to our MP's office, and he has already forwarded them to the Prime Minister. I will say that some of our employees felt strongly enough about this issue that they also wrote letters themselves and wanted these letters sent to our Member of Parliament and through him to the Prime Minister. So I did that as well. So we are getting some traction, and we're going to keep working on this file. Had a very lengthy Fort Frances Power Corporation board meeting. 2 of our staff were present. Was really gratified to have Manager Rob there, and then our IT manager there as well. Manager Rob reported on a report that he had commissioned with Aux Energy. It's spelled AUX, and it looked into the number of power outages that's occurring, because that's a justification for the microgrid. We also discussed the Siemens report in context with the microgrid, and we talked about First Light and the Highbury project. As you know, because I've mentioned it before, there's a lot of work to be done before these projects can go forward in terms of the Fort Frances Power Corporation's participation. They need to get an update on a lot of their infrastructure. They need to put in some high voltage lines. They need to get a new transformer, and that's going to be very, very expensive. The town of Fort Frances, as the sole shareholder, is going to have to help them out in some way. And we're looking at the legalities of that. We've got legal advice as to what that might look like. I made it clear to the board that these are highly technical issues. We have a lot of balls in the air that we're juggling, so to speak, and council is going to need to be brought up to speed on some of these very technical issues. So I suggested that they have a few information sessions with council, but explaining succinctly what needs to be done and the technology behind them. So you can look forward to some presentations from the Fort Frances Power Corporation soon. Our IT manager presented on cybersecurity, which of course is something that concerns all of us. The town of Sioux Lookout has requested that the Fort Frances Power Corporation submit a request for management service proposal. They want us to kind of run their power corporation for them, and the board okayed that. So we'll see what comes of that. The board CEO did a comparison. There's 53 utilities remaining in Ontario. There used to be hundreds of utilities, and gradually over time they've been amalgamating, and there's a real push on to reduce that even further. The report that the CAO did compared a number of categories and how the Fort Frances Power Corporation compares to all of the other 53. And it was a very, very favorable comparison, which I have if you're interested in. We came in first in many, many categories. So we are situated very nicely compared to other utilities in the province of Ontario. There is a push, though, from the province wanting to amalgamate utilities further. We feel that the Fort Frances Power Corporation is an excellently run utility that's delivering excellent service, and we do not want to see ourselves amalgamated. We want to protect that 1905 power agreement. Some really good news. As I mentioned, the Fort Francis Power Corporation needs to update its infrastructure, and they've been approved for FedNor funding in the amount of $1,150,000. So a board resolution was passed accepting that funding. And there will be another meeting between the Fort Francis Power Corporation and our council soon to deal with board of director nominations. And just one last one. I do want to mention raising the Shine the Light campaign flag. November is recognized as Women Abuse Prevention Month, and so every November we raise the purple Shine the Light flag. Again, my thanks go out to Riverside Counseling, in particular Jackie over there, for spearheading this campaign, and everyone's encouraged to wear purple in support of this campaign and in support of abused women. And with that, I'll leave the rest for you to read. I believe Councilor Bean, no report. Councilor Burnett, no report. And Councilor Morrison, you have a bit of a report. Okay, you're up.
To your worship. I attend the library meeting October 10th. Under business arising from the minutes, the board discussed the status of the library's guaranteed investment certificate, or GIC, which is set to mature in December 2025. It was agreed that decisions regarding reinvestment will be made after reviewing the 2026 capital budget, with the intention of potentially reinvesting for 1 year or longer, depending on the financial needs and priorities. We also went through a bunch of policies and reviewed and updated them, including respect and acknowledgement declaration, equity, diversity, and inclusion, collection development, local history, human resource management, staff selection and assignment, terms and conditions of employment, performance and discipline, compensation, vacation, public holidays, and leave. And members of the library board are working on updating the strat plan. And the next meeting will be November 20th at 4:35 p.m.
Thank you, Councilor Morrison. Moving on to the consent agenda, we have, I believe, 6 items. So 8.2 is the regular council meeting minutes, and the recommendation reads that council approve the regular council meeting minutes of October 27, 2025 as presented. 8.3 are boards and committee meeting minutes. The recommendation reads that the following boards and committee meeting minutes be received as information. The Rainy River District West OPP Detachment Board meeting of September 22nd, 2025, and the Fort Francis Public Library Board meeting of September 18th, 2025. 8.4 deals with council self-evaluation survey results, and the recommendation reads, the council accept report AR-25-0939 titled Council Self-Evaluation Survey Results as information. 8.5 is the POA quarterly financial statements, and the recommendation reads that council receive report AR-25-0886 as information on the POA financial statements for the period ending September 30th, 2025. 8.6 is funding approval for the Ontario Fire Smart Communities program, and the recommendation reads that council approval of report AR-25-0935 agrees with the recommendation of administration to enter into a transfer payment agreement with the province for the Fire Smart Communities grant program, and that council approve the execution of this agreement through an authorizing bylaw, and further that council direct administration to proceed in procuring a consultant to develop these plans. And 8.7 deals with financial statements for the period ending October 31st for the general fund and water and sewer fund. And the recommendation reads that council receive the attached financial statements in report AR-25-0942 for the general fund and water and sewer fund for the period ending October 31st, 2025 as information. Councilors, would you like to pull any of those? Seeing none, could I get a mover and seconder on the resolution, which reads that council approve the consent agenda as following: agenda items 8.2, 8.3, 8.4, 8.5, 8.6, and 8.7. Councilor Burnett, Councilor Firth. Calling the question, all in favor? It's carried and no one was opposed. Moving on to agenda item 9, which are Administration and Finance Division reports. 9.1, I'll put a resolution on the floor that Council receive report AR-25-0937 and direct administration to maintain the insurance deductibles as originally presented to Council on October 27, 2025. And further, that a bylaw be prepared authorizing mayor and clerk to execute the municipal insurance renewal agreement on behalf of the corporation. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor McTaggart, Councillor Morrison. Any discussion or comments, councillors? Seeing none, calling the question, all in, were you voting? Okay, calling the question, all in favor. Thank you. I would really be jumping the gun. Moving on to item 10, Community Service Division reports. There are none. Item 11 is Planning and Development Division reports, and that brings us to 11.1. I'll put a resolution on the floor. The recommendation reads that Council receive report AR-25-0934 as information at this time, and direct administration to bring a following report to Council recommending a decision at a subsequent Council meeting. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Firth, Councillor Behan. Again, I remind councillors that this is primarily for information, but if you'd like to make a comment on this, you certainly may. Councillor Bernetta.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess I don't really understand this resolution because I believe we've already made a decision to go with options 1 and 2. So how can we reconsider this unless we pass a motion to reconsider?
I'm looking at CBO Burrows.
Through the chair. Thank you, Councillor Bernetta. The previous report that came before Council in July was a resolution for supporting one of the options or several of the options for the direction of Sawney Cove. It wasn't a resolution of a direction to administration. And it was written that way at that time because we were still awaiting feedback from Kiwanis, and we wanted to entertain and see what Council's opinion and desire was for Kiwanis and Sunny Cove Camp to move forward. Now that we've received this letter from Kiwanis, it offers more information for Council consideration before moving forward with any of the options presented previously. We were waiting to get this set in stone recommendation to Council until we received this letter from Kiwanis, which they did have to meet with their board before conferring and providing a letter to us. At this time, after receiving the response from Kiwanis, that's where we wanted to come back to Council, present the information to them so that they were aware of it, and come back at a subsequent meeting for an actual direction and resolution.
Thank you. Follow up?
So, so we have the information now in this report. So what else are you going to be providing in the next report?
CBO Burrows.
Through the chair again. The next report will be a recommendation to Council to direct administration with proceeding with either one or option 1 and 2 as previously supportive of, or proceeding with direction 4 as supported by the Kiwanis Club. Really just reaffirming it. The reason why this wasn't done as just one report with a recommendation at this time is to give Council the opportunity to sit on the information, think it over, ask questions as needed, open it up for further conversation with Kiwanis Club if desired, and then come back to Council with that resolution to be tabled.
Thank you. You're good? Thank you for the question, Councilor Bernetta. Thank you for the response, CBO Burrows. Further comments? CAO?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to elaborate a little bit on Manager Burrows' comment to Councilor Bernetta. Options 1 and 2 are very different than what Kiwanis wants to do. So we just wanted to give Council the opportunity to have preliminary questions tonight, because the final report that will come will have your preferred options of rehabilitating Russell Hall and clearing the site of derelict buildings. But now we have new information specific that Kiwanis is looking, they would prefer us to just sell the land, like sell it, and then they will use the monies to do other things. And we didn't want, and this is an issue with the limitation on the amount of council meetings or committee meetings that we have in order to sort of have these conversations. We want to give an opportunity to have those questions because the report that was given in July is going to have now a new variable that's very different that shows Kiwanis' position, which is very different than what council wanted in the July 14th meeting. So a little bit peculiar, but otherwise it would come all together and you would have one meeting to decide, or we defer. So while we're trying to potentially look at a different way to have committee meetings, we decided to bring it forward this way in case there's questions. If council wants to say anything to the nature of they're not interested in this, we could then have, I guess, preliminary conversations again with Kiwanis and then have whatever information you need to make a final decision. So a little long-winded, but we want to make sure that you're prepared for this final meeting, and this changes the direction from July. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, CAO. Yes, Councillor Mackey?
Thank you, Worship. This is just a point of clarification. As you've seen on the report, my wife is a current president of the Kiwanis Club of Fort Frances, and I am a former president of the Kiwanis Club of Fort Frances. Now, that's going back a number of years, but I have, and this is going back approximately 2 years when this Sunny Cove issue started to surface. I spoke with the Integrity Commissioner about whether or not I should declare conflict. There's no pecuniary interest for myself or my family. And he was quite clear that I am able to speak to and be involved in this discussion. So I just wanted everybody to understand that.
Thank you for that explanation. Thank you, Councillor Mackey. Any further comments? Councillor Bean?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. And again, this is preliminary, but I thought I'd ask the question now tonight then, given the discussion we're having. I'm wondering, it says in the report that we would request disbursements back to the town for costs associated with the sales, such as legal fees and realtor fees. I'm wondering if there also should be a discussion over, do we get compensation through the sale proceeds for the net cost to operate Sunny Cove over the last 15 years that we've owned it? So I'm just wondering if that should be part of the discussion too, and maybe there's some aspect of the report that can be included that would say some sort of breakdown of those costs, and if we should be entitled to get some of that, what we've put in the Sunny Cove the last 15 years back. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bean. Further questions or comments? Oh, CBO Burrows?
Through the chair, and I can speak briefly to that. When this comes back later in November with a resolution for council to consider, we will present information about the operating revenues and expenditures for Kiwanis Sunny Cove Camp. Not to say that it's not something that can be considered and negotiated with Kiwanis Club. I would just err on the side of caution about presenting any sort of disbursements back for previous operating expenses. Because Kiwanis Club did operate the camp for years prior to the town ownership and dispersed it to the town for a zero-sum amount, they didn't do that with an aspect of getting any sort of funds from the town to give the camp to us. Likewise, returning it back to them in the same format, we would like to keep that same integrity of which they gave us of selling it back to them for a zero-sum amount if we were to proceed that way. Now, in facilitating that transaction, this takes it another step forward. If they did want to disperse to a third party, not having it sold back to them just for them to turn around and sell it again, we could facilitate the sale and transaction of that, which is what has been outlined in the letters that have been sent to Mayor and Council and administration. So basically just speaking to it, it is a little bit of a gamble trying to negotiate saying that some of those funds go back to administration or mayor and council for the operations of the camp. It's not something that we can't speak to in negotiations, but it is something that's probably going to be pushed back against.
Councillor Firth. Oh, you did a follow-up?
If you may, thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. As a follow-up too, the report says that we supported options 1 and 2 because remediation would support future town operations and programs. My question is, would we still be obligated to run the camp primarily as a youth camp, as we initially said we would do? Or would we have more options going forward if we decide to keep it remediated and move forward with other things? Thank you.
CBO Burrows.
Through the chair again, we would still be held by the covenant on the property to run it in line with a summer camp for the kids. In the option 4 as presented by Kiwanis in their letters to the town, we would be looking to sell to a third party that would also carry that caveat in operations. If failure to sell or disposition to a third party with that caveat, that's where, as the Kiwanis in the town, we would consult and decide if we did want to release those covenants for the sale.
Thank you, Councillor Bien. Councillor Firth.
Through your worship, can administration comment on what the ballpark holding costs are for the asset?
CBO Burrows.
Through the chair, I don't have accurate numbers on the holding costs at this time. May be able to direct it to another department that might have more access to those numbers. Just for the holding cost as it is now of not being used. What I can say, digging back into 2018, is it appears the operation of the Sunny Cove camp was operating at a deficit of about $35,000. That seems accurate. So it was costing the town $35,000 to operate it back in 2018.
Follow up, or are you good?
If we could get the holding cost emailed to us prior to the next meeting, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, Manager Rob.
Thank you through the chair. So as it sits right now, our holding costs going back over the last 3 years have been about $26,000 a year.
Thank you, Manager Rob. Further questions or comments? Councillor McTaggart.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm really torn on this issue. So to have a full look at this, could we have economic development maybe offer some advice too on potential future development on how the property might be used in addition for this report, so that we have a full look at every possibility?
And we'll do that at the next meeting. Yeah. Any other questions?
That would come as part of the report, though.
Hopefully, yes. Yeah. Any other questions or comments, councillors? Okay, seeing none, calling the question then. All in favor? That's carried and no one was opposed. Okay, moving on to item 12, Operations and Facilities Division Reports. 12.1, I'll put a resolution on the floor. Recommendation reads that council receive report AR-25-0940 as information. Can I get a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Bien and Councillor McTaggart. Questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Bien.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. In reading the report, the option for angle parking that was discussed at our last meeting, it says this would allow for additional 7 spaces. That'd be less, and it'd be 2 less because we have to have the egress from that lot. So that'd be, what I'm reading is 5. But when I look at the picture, it shows 4 parking spots to my mind. So I'm just confused about that. Thank you.
Manager Rob.
Thank you through the chair. I apologize for my poor drawing skills. I unfortunately don't have a good AutoCAD drawing to actually dimension it off of. So the drawing is a bit crude, and that's why there's not perfect number of spaces for the area laid out.
Follow up.
To confirm then that the follow-up then, that'd be a net gain of 5 spaces with the angle parking? Thank you.
Manager Rob.
Thank you through the chair. Yes, net gain of 5.
Thanks, Councillor Bien. Yes, Councillor Mackey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Earlier today, I went on Google Earth and I put a yardstick on from the west wall of the Sister Kennedy Center building east to the far side of the horseshoe pit. Well, that's 40 meters or 120 some feet. So I'm not visualizing only 4 or 5, but 10 or 12-foot spaces. You should be able to get 10 vehicles parked side by side in that spot, minus some, maybe there's some anomaly, but I think that there's room for more than 4, 5, or 6, possibly 8 or 10.
Was there a question in there or you just? Okay, thank you. Further questions or comments? Councillor McTaggart?
Yes, thank you, Worship, and thank you for this report. I guess my question is, if there's 2 sheds outside of the shop building. If they were to be moved back in behind the shop to the south side of the shop, was there more room for additional parking?
Manager Rob?
Thank you, through the chair. I tried to maximize the space as much as possible, moving or removing as many movable buildings as I possibly could to get as many spots in as I could.
Follow up, Councillor McTaggart?
No, we're just receiving this for information, so we
Yes.
can bring it back later.
Okay. Further questions, comments? Councillor Bernetta?
I apologize if I read this wrong, but are you saying that you're removing the sidewalk right beside the senior center, so people would have to walk on the roadway? That seems unsafe to me, but maybe I misread it.
Manager Rob?
Thank you, through the chair. No, I was referencing there would be no space between the parking area and the building to have a sidewalk running east-west to get you from, say, the most westerly parking spot around the building and into the door.
Good. Anything else, councillors? Okay. Calling the question then. All in favor? Carried. No one was opposed. Okay, 12.2 deals with the connecting link application. I'll put the resolution on the floor. That council approved report number AR-25-0938. And that a resolution of support be passed for the application to the 2026-2027 Connecting Links program for the detailed design for the reconstruction of Central Avenue intersection, which will state: 1, council support of the project identified in the application. 2, confirmation that capital funding is available for the municipal contribution component. And 3, indication that if the application is successful, that the municipality will proceed with the project in accordance with the timeline specified in the application. Can I get a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Bernetta and Councillor Bien. Okay, councillors. Questions, comments? Councillor Bien.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to Manager Rob. Just so I'm clear, are we deciding tonight that we're going with the roundabout or not? Or are we just deciding tonight that the council support of the project identified in the application is just a detailed design? We're not deciding yet which option we're going with. Is that
Manager Rob?
Thank you, through the chair. That is correct. All we're looking for tonight is support resolution for application to Connecting Link for the undertake of the detailed design. What the actual design will be, that's a later decision.
You good? Yep. Councillor McTaggart and then Councillor Morrison. Go ahead, Councillor McTaggart.
So the next stage, you would bring, that would come back to council? Which design we're going to go with?
Manager Rob?
Thank you, through the chair. So yes, provided we are successful in our grant application, we proceed with detailed design. A stage of that would be coming back with more refined design options and a decision on which design we're going to go with.
Of the 4 options.
Yep. You good? Follow up?
Just one quick
Go ahead.
question. Will any of the proposed designs that are out there impact the lift station at all?
Manager Rob?
Thank you, through the chair. An excellent question. Right now, the consideration or the constraints that were put upon KGS for this initial design or initial feasibility study, as well as will be placed on whomever is doing the detailed design, would be that the infrastructure at the lift station is not impacted.
Thank you.
Councilor Morrison?
To your worship, thank you. I just have some concerns. I see the under Connecting Links program, the maximum funding of 90% is up to $5 million. I noticed APG's, they estimated that 2-lane is about 4.7 million. So if we have like $250,000 to $300,000 into the design work, is that what the cost was, I believe?
Manager Rob?
Through the chair, we're budgeting $200,000 for design.
Follow up?
Thank you. Through the chair again. My concern is then the way I've seen a lot of the tenders go, if it's $4.7 million estimated, and we'll be pretty much maxed out at the $5 million. I just have concerns. It's when I look back on when this was first brought to council, it was estimated, I believe you said $1 to $2 million. It looks like to me it's gonna be like $5 million. So I just have some concerns. And if it goes over, then all of a sudden the town's gonna be on the hook. From what I can see here, if it's up to 6 million, then all of a sudden we're gonna be on the hook for an extra $1 million in addition to our 10%, $500,000. Is that correct?
Manager Rob?
Thank you, through the chair. So yes, Connecting Link will fund 90% up to $5 million. Depending on the complexity of the chosen design, the construction cost would be tendered in future years. I think that there's a ton of opportunity through the design process, given that we're not really dealing with underground infrastructure to control costs through the design phase. At a future meeting of council, there will be a tender potentially awarded for the reconstruction costs of whatever the tender happens to be for the reconstruction costs.
Thank you, Manager Rob. Councilor Mackey?
Thank you, Your Worship. Going back in time, when this first came up, we agreed to put out for the 250,000. The traffic light was going to cost us 700,000 or 70 grand out of our pocket. But this engineer's report's going to cost out of our pocket 25 grand. And then we had to come back and do a feasibility study for 25 grand. So we're up to 50 grand, or almost the cost of replacing the traffic lights. And the estimate, and I recalled asking for the numbers from Manager Rob, and I was quite clear. I don't want to pin the numbers down on them. That wasn't the intention. It was to give us an idea on whether it was feasible or not to go ahead with even spending 50 grand to see if we can get an engineer's report. Well, now we're up to 5,000. And in my 3 years on council, we haven't had a single estimate of a project come in at cost or less. 20, 50, even 100% increases. So 4.7 could be $5, $6, $7 million. So I think at this point right now, we as council should be deciding, do we even want to go ahead and spend the 50,000 on the engineering report when we know we're going to be at $5 million or more? That wasn't where our heads were at when we decided to go ahead with this in the first place. So I think we need to take a serious look at whether or not to even spend the money for an engineering report if we're not going to go ahead with it, because 5, 6, 7 million is an outrageous number to spend at this point. So there's my statement.
Thank you for that. Further questions or comments? Councilor Behan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Manager Rob again. Looking at the cost for the three options, 3.9 million for the single lane roundabout, 4.7 million for the 2-lane roundabout, 3 million for just reconfiguration, new signals, et cetera, et cetera. If we decide to spend an extra $900,000 on option one, I'm just curious how long it would take, if you can estimate, to realize that the savings we go from not using signals would be realized, how many years it might take for that, to justify that $900,000 extra expense? How long would it take for the savings from not going to signals to be realized? Thank you.
Manager Rob? Sorry to interrupt your thinking.
Give me a second to make a couple of calculations. So based on some very rough calculations, looking at utility, really just utility pricing for roughly what it costs us per year on utilities per signalized intersection. Looking at a controller, full controller replacement every 15 years. Not factoring onto the maintenance of the signal piece of it, because I don't have a good handle on how much we spend on actually maintaining the signal infrastructure itself. You're probably looking at about an 8-year payback on the difference between.
Thank you very much.
Good. Other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none then, I'll call the question. All in favor? Oh, sorry. Absolutely. Madam Clerk?
Councillor Bien,
Yay.
Mayor Heligas,
Yay.
Councillor McTaggart,
Yay.
Councillor Brunetta,
Yay.
Councillor Mackey,
Nay.
Councillor Firth,
Nay.
Councillor Morrison.
Nay.
Motion carries.
Thank you, councilors, and thank you for the discussions. Very good discussion there. Moving on to 12.3, another Connecting Links program application. Put the resolution on the floor. The council approved report AR-25-0936, and that a resolution of support be passed for application to the 2026-2027 Connecting Links program for the detailed design for the reconstruction of Scott Street, Highway 11, between Armit Avenue and Victoria Avenue, which will state, 1, council support of the project identified in the application, 2, confirmation that capital funding is available for the municipal contribution component, and 3, indication that if the application is successful, that the municipality will proceed with the project in accordance with the timelines specified in the application. Can I get a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Morrison and Councillor Brunetta. Okay, councillors, any discussion or comments? Councillor Morrison?
To the chair, I just have a question here. If we're able to, instead of just, this is for that one section of road, are we able to do like multiple sections and have it engineered at the same time?
Manager Rob?
Thank you through the chair. We can. I do prefer to, particularly when we're doing Connecting Link, to kind of do them as as we go, so to speak, in terms of what is feasible for us to build. If you end up doing design too much ahead of yourself, then by the time the construction happens, your design details, particularly when we're talking about redoing the signal infrastructure with it, your design details become irrelevant, and then you end up having to go back and redesigning components of the roadwork. So it is a bit of a balancing act in terms of how far forward you want to go with design versus what you think you're going to be able to successfully get Connecting Link funding for going forward.
Follow up? Yep.
I'm just wondering though if there's some aspects that we could save some money on going forward. Like say if we know we're doing the next 2 blocks. Further than that, to have like the sewer and water, because we see it, the same sewer and water system, would it save us any money if we looked forward on that kind of stuff in engineering?
Andrew Rob?
Thank you, through the chair. So depending on where we're working, we will try, and particularly for doing geotech investigations, so bringing the drilling rigging to do geotech boreholes, we will forward look at that as much as we can to try and get as many holes drilled while the rig is in town, because the cost is bringing it to town, not actually having it working for you. So we do try and take advantage of having the equipment here and get as much kind of forward-thinking information as we can on the geotech side of things.
Thanks, Manager Rob. Thanks for the questions, Councillor. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, then I will call the question. All in favor? And that's carried, and no one was opposed. Okay, that brings us to bylaws. Item 13.1. Recommendation reads that the following bylaws be introduced and read and finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the corporate seal, and become law forthwith. 7 of them. So, first one is bylaw 80-25, being a bylaw to adopt the consolidated and updated health and safety plan. Next, we have bylaw 81-25, being a bylaw to adopt the updated municipal and employees vehicles policy. Third one is bylaw 82-25, being a bylaw to adopt the consolidated and updated workplace harassment and violence policy. We then have bylaw 83-25, being a bylaw to adopt the new workplace violence, health and safety policy for the municipal airport. Followed by bylaw 84-25, being a bylaw to approve and accept the renewal agreement with IPE. We then have bylaw 85-25, being a bylaw to enter into a transfer payment agreement for Fire Smart Communities grant. And finally, bylaw 21-14-0, a traffic bylaw amendment. Can I get a mover and seconder, please? Councillor McTaggart and Councillor Mackey. Any discussions, councillors? Calling the question, all in favor? It's carried and no one was opposed. Okay, that brings us to item 14, notice of motion/motion to reconsider. We have none. So we then move to item 15, which is a closed session. And I will put a resolution on the floor that council now meet in camera in order to address a matter pertaining to 1, BIA board application for a consideration of appointment. This falls under 239-2B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. 2, Point Park litigation cost request from Agency 1, again falls under 239-2E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or the board, and also it falls under 239-2F, advice that is subject to a solicitor-client privilege. Item 3 is the Point Park litigation cost request from the Government of Canada. Again, falls under 239-2E and 239-2F, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals, and advice that is subject to a solicitor-client privilege. And 4 is the Point Park litigation cost request from the Government of Ontario, again falling under 239-2E and 239.2F, litigation or potential litigation, and advice that is subject to a solicitor-client privilege. Can I get a mover and seconder, please, to move into closed session? Councillor Mackey and Councillor Behan. And we are moving into closed session at 6:25. I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried, and no one was opposed. For those of you online, we will now move into closed session. After our discussions, we will return to open session and report. Thank you.
Fuck, man.
Set? Okay, we're back in open session. We met in closed session to deal with a number of items, and there's some resolutions coming out of that. With respect to item 15.2, the BIA board application, I'll put a resolution on the floor. Recommendation that council appoint David Burns as a member to the Business Improvement Area BIA for the remainder of the 2022 to 2026 term. Can I get a mover and seconder on that? Councillor Firth and Councillor Morrison. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. No one was opposed. Item 15.3. Make sure I have these in the right order. Dealing with the Point Park litigation, recommendation in open session is that council approve report AR-25-0943 directed Agency 1 First Nation settlement costs and that administration proceed as directed. Can I get a mover and seconder on that, please? Councillor Mackey, Councillor McTaggart. All in favor? Carried. And I should point out that Councillor Morrison has declared a conflict of interest and did not vote. Seem to be missing the Government of Canada one. Got the Ontario. There? Okay. So I'm going to move on to 15.5 while we get 15.4 ready. And that's a recommendation that council approve report number AR-25-0945 entitled Point Park Litigation Costs Request Government of Ontario, and that administration proceed as directed. Could I get a mover and second for that one, Councillor Bernetta and Councillor Mackey? All in favor? It's carried. That's great, thank you. Okay, dealing with item 15.4. This is the litigation cost request from the Government of Canada. The recommendation means that council accept report AR-25-0946 as information and that administration proceed as directed. Could I get a mover and seconder on that, please? Councillor Firth, Councillor Behan. All in favor? It's carried. I also don't have. Thank you. Okay, with respect to the closed meeting minutes of October 27th, the recommendation that council approve the closed meeting minutes of October 27th, 2025. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Firth, Councillor Behan. Any discussion on those minutes? All in favor? Carried. Okay, our confirmatory bylaw recommendation reads that bylaw 86-25 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council of the corporation of the town of Fort Francis be introduced, read, and finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed by the corporate seal, and become law forthwith. Can I get a mover and seconder on that, please? Councillor Firth, Councillor Bernetta. Any discussion? All in favor? It's carried. No one was opposed. And finally, that having reached the hour of 7:51, that this meeting of the council of the town of Fort Francis be now closed. Councillor McTaggart and Councillor Mackey. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor. We had some very heavy deliberations today.
Next year it'll be 7:21.